I want you to think about something for a moment. How much cash do you have in your bank account right now? How much in your wallet? Now imagine it's gone. Just gone. No warning, no court hearing, no conviction. And the people who took it, they get to keep it. Welcome to the world of civil asset forfeiture. Since the year 2000, police departments and federal agents in this country have taken at least $82 billion in cash, cars, and property from ordinary Americans. And here's the part that should make your blood boil. In most of those cases, the person the money was taken from was never arrested, never charged, and never convicted of any crime. Not one. No handcuffs, no trial, no guilty verdict. They simply took the property and kept it. And they did it all through a process most people have never even heard of, until the day it happens to them. Here's another number that should bother you. In 24 states that researchers studied closely, half of all cash seizures were worth less than $1,900. Meanwhile, hiring a lawyer to fight for that money back runs you around $30,300. Read that again slowly. They take an amount so small that fighting for your own money costs you more than the money is worth. That's not a mistake. That's the whole design. So can police really take your cash, money you earned, money you saved, money that is 100% legally yours, and simply keep it without ever charging you with anything? Most people are absolutely certain the answer is no. They are wrong. And by the time you finish reading this, you will understand exactly how it works and exactly how to keep it from happening to you. In this video, I'm breaking down the legal trick that makes all of this possible, the reason your savings become a target, and the 2 Supreme Court rulings that decide whether you ever see your money again. Stick with me, and you'll walk away knowing exactly how to protect yourself if this ever happens to you. Before I break it down, hit that subscribe button and tap the bell. You do not want to be searching for this video after your money is already gone. Let's start with the trick itself, because once you see it, you can't unsee it. In a normal criminal case, the rules are the ones you grew up believing in. The government has to accuse a person. It has to prove that person guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. And until it does, you are innocent. That's the deal. That's the America you were raised in. Civil forfeiture throws that entire deal in the trash using one strange little move. The government does not charge you. It charges your stuff. I know how that sounds, but it is real. And it's exactly why these cases have such bizarre names. There are actual lawsuits in this country called things like United States versus $82,000 in cash. Not a person. The money itself. Your cash becomes the defendant. And here's why that one move changes everything. Your cash does not have the rights that you have. Your cash does not get the presumption of innocence. Your cash does not get a free lawyer. So the moment the government sues your money instead of you, every protection you were counting on, the ones meant to stand between you and an armed agent on the worst day of your life, quietly disappears. And then comes the part that flips the whole world upside down. In a criminal case, the government has to prove that you did something wrong. In civil forfeiture, it reverses. Now, you have to prove that your money is innocent. You, the person who did nothing, have to hire a lawyer on your own dime, walk into court, and convince a judge that your own savings were not tangled up in a crime. Sit with how backwards that is. They take it first, then you have to prove you deserve it back. But surely they need real proof to take it in the first place, right? Here's where it gets worse. The level of proof the government has to meet in these cases is far lower than the one in a criminal trial. They do not have to be sure. In many places, they only have to show that it is more likely than not, just barely tipping the scale past 50%, that the cash is connected to something illegal. A hunch dressed up in a suit. Let me make this real with an everyday example. A widow sells her late husband's motorcycle. The buyer pays her in cash. She gets pulled over for a brake light. The officer asks if she's carrying any cash. She tells the truth. And just like that, her money is gone. She never committed a crime. She never had a chance to defend herself. She just happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. Why would police take money from people they never even charge? The honest answer is the ugliest part of this whole story. In most states, and at the federal level, the agency that seizes the money gets to keep a large slice of it. Sometimes most of it, sometimes all of it. The cash flows right back into the budget of the very department that took it. Let that settle for a second. The same people who decide whether to seize your money also get paid from it. The numbers tell the story. The Institute for Justice, a nonprofit law firm that tracks forfeiture, estimates that $82 billion has been seized since 2000. And they say it's an undercount because many places don't even report what they take. There's also a federal program called equitable sharing that lets a local police department hand your case over to the federal government and then collect up to 80% of your money back. Why would they bother? Because it lets them slip right around their own state's laws. That single loophole has paid more than $8 billion back to state and local agencies. And before anyone tells you this is all about catching drug kingpins, look at who actually gets caught in the net. In some states, 2/3 to 3/4 of all seizures are never even challenged by the owner. Why not? Because when the cash taken is worth less than the lawyer it takes to fight for it, most people just walk away. It's not abstract. In Philadelphia, one program seized property from more than 30,000 people over a few years. Investigators found seizures as small as $25 in cash, a $20 cologne gift set, and even a pair of crutches. Crutches. That's who this machine actually grinds up. Ordinary people, for small amounts, who can't afford to fight back. Here is the part of this that is aimed squarely at you if you are over 60. You were raised a certain way. You were taught to respect a man in uniform, to be polite, to cooperate, to never make a fuss. That's not a weakness. It's good manners, the manners of an entire generation. But understand how that looks from the other side of the badge. An officer weighing whether to take someone's cash is looking for the person least likely to push back. The one who will not know the deadlines. The one who will be too rattled to say no. The one who assumes that if they just explain themselves and cooperate, surely this nice officer will understand. Does that sound like anyone you know? It might sound like you, and that's exactly the point. And this is not a hypothetical. A 79-year-old retired railroad engineer from Pittsburgh kept his life savings in cash at home. When he moved into a smaller apartment, he asked his daughter to carry the money and deposit it. At the airport, agents seized every dollar. Neither one of them was ever charged with a crime. It took a lawsuit and an international outcry before the government finally returned his savings 6 months later. 6 months that a 79-year-old man spent without the money for his own teeth. There's also a quieter version of this that hits seniors right where they bank. Banks are required to report cash transactions over $10,000. So some people, often older folks who simply prefer to handle money in smaller, careful amounts, make several smaller deposits instead. The government has a name for that. They call it structuring. And here's the cruel twist. Structuring is illegal all by itself, even when the money is 100% clean. The IRS has seized millions of dollars from innocent Americans on exactly that theory. So the question I promised to answer, can police take your cash and keep it? Here's the straight answer. Yes. In most states and under federal law, police can seize cash they merely claim is tied to a crime without arresting you, without charging you, without ever convicting you of anything. And through civil forfeiture, they can keep it permanently if you do not fight back correctly and in time. But it is not hopeless, and it is not unlimited. The courts have started to push back, and there are real protections you can use. Let me give you the two rulings that decide whether you ever see your money again. The first is a Supreme Court case from 2019 called Timbs versus Indiana. A man named Tyson Timbs had his Land Rover worth about $42,000 seized after a small drug offense. The maximum fine the law allowed for what he did was $10,000. So the state tried to take a vehicle worth more than 4 times the biggest fine on the books. The Supreme Court ruled, every single justice agreed, 9-0, that the Eighth Amendment's protection against excessive fines applies to the states. In plain English, a forfeiture can be so wildly out of proportion to the offense that it becomes unconstitutional. They cannot always swing a sledgehammer to swat a fly. Tyson eventually got his car back. The second case is more recent, and it is the harder pill. In 2024, the Supreme Court decided Culley versus Marshall. The good news, the court confirmed that if the government takes your property, the Constitution guarantees you a hearing in front of a judge, and it has to come in a timely way. That's your right, and it matters. But here's the catch. The court also said you're not automatically entitled to a quick, separate hearing just to get your property back while you wait for the main case. In that very case, one of the owners waited about 20 months, nearly 2 years, and had to file a lawsuit before she got her car returned. So yes, you get your day in court, but timely can still mean many long months of your money sitting in their account instead of yours. Now let me give you the practical steps you can take to protect yourself. First, know this one fact cold. Inside the United States, it is completely legal to carry any amount of cash on a domestic flight or in your car. You're not doing anything wrong, and you owe no one an explanation for your own money. The single exception is crossing the border, where you're required to report more than $10,000. Domestically, there is no such rule. Second, if an officer starts asking about your money, stay calm, stay polite, and stay firm, all three at once. You can be respectful and still protect yourself. You are generally not required to answer questions about how much cash you have, where it came from, or where you're taking it. A simple line a lawyer might hand you sounds like this. Officer, I'm not going to answer questions about my money, and I do not consent to any searches. And then the single most important question of all said politely, am I free to go? If the answer is yes, you go. Third, do not consent to a search of your bag, your car, or your pockets. They may decide to search anyway, and if they do, you do not physically resist, not ever. You comply with your body and you object with your words. I do not consent to this search. That one sentence does real work later in front of a judge. Fourth, if they take your cash anyway, the clock starts the second they walk away, and the deadlines are short and unforgiving. This is the trap that swallows most people. They get a confusing letter in the mail, they feel overwhelmed, they set it on the kitchen counter to deal with later, and they miss the window forever. Do not be that person. Get the names and badge numbers of everyone involved, get any paperwork they will give you, and find a lawyer who specifically handles forfeiture fast. There are firms, including nonprofits, who have taken these cases for free. Fifth, prevention. When you can, do not move large amounts of cash if you do not have to. A cashier's check or a bank transfer cannot be pulled out of a bag at an airport gate. And if you do carry cash, keep your paperwork, your withdrawal slips, your record of the sale, so you can show exactly where it came from. If you forget everything else today, hold on to this one rule. Comply with your body, assert your rights with your words, and fight it in court. You never win by arguing on the roadside or at the airport gate. You win by staying calm in the moment and being relentless afterward. Because here is the truth this entire system is built on. It is counting on you being too polite to say no, too tired to fight, and too unsure to act before the deadline runs out. The single most dangerous thing you can be in that moment is uninformed. And you, right now, are no longer uninformed. If this video helped you understand how civil forfeiture works, hit that like button right now, subscribe and ring the bell so you never miss an update. And share this with someone over 60 that you love, because this is exactly the kind of thing nobody warns them about until it's too late. And drop a comment below. Have you ever had money seized by police? What happened? I read every comment, and I will see you in the next video.